Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Fahad Khan. I'm part of the SingleStore team working as a partner solutions engineer for APAC region. I work with global SIs and value-added resellers, enabling them to support. For last 10 years, I've been into data and analytics space, helping our enterprises drive out their analytics strategy and supporting them with various data use cases that they have. I'm excited to be presenting and talking to you about how SingleStore is powering data-intensive applications across the globe and changing the way the data platform landscape is currently in the enterprises organization. Today, I'm going to talk about powering data-intensive applications in financial services. So we have seen how data has changed the landscape of organizations and business over the last couple of years. And with the advent of data, every application is requiring huge amounts of data to enable their users with the information they need, right? So data and analytics has the power to transform financial services. McKinsey predicted that sharpening AI and analytics will help banking organizations earn up to $1 trillion across the globe, right? This is a huge number considering how the businesses are working and how the competitive landscape is changing continuously in every business aspect. The key dynamics and priorities of financial services have changed. So it's no more passive customer service. It's proactive, intentional, and premium customer experiences that drive customers to stick on to the businesses or be your recurring customer. 51% of the consumers expect banks to anticipate needs and make relevant suggestions, right? With the current infrastructure, 94% of the banks are unable to deliver it given the data challenges they have. While customer experience is one aspect, the expectation of consumer is to have always on and responsive market offerings, right? So we all know Robinhood is a stock trading platform, which had an outage for 17 hours, which ended up stopping consumers to trade when Dow Jones had the single biggest point gain at that point of time. So 17 hours, so many people not able to trade and they lost valuable time to make money. And that created a benchmark for outages and customer experiences. Once you enable your consumers, I think with the digitization of every aspect, digital fraud is increasing day by day. So you really need to drive down fraud and risk in real time. So you really need to drive down fraud and risks in real time. 104% of consumers, 104% of increase in credit card fraud due to the fast growing identity theft. We have almost 50% of corporate treasurers expecting real-time risk management. Even in India, we have seen a lot of fraud over the last couple of years. I was reading an article, prior to 2017, frauds above 1 lakh rupees transaction were close to 200 crores a year. Now, last 2 years, when RBI started capturing frauds below 1 lakh rupees, they realized the actual fraud was close to 400 crores for smaller transactions. So that means 10 years back, most of the organizations used to run fraud analytics on 1% of the transactions or 2% of the transactions. With the current advent and the numbers, how things are moving, you really need to do your fraud analytics on 100% of your transactions. That means we're average bank that I know or a payment processing company roughly does 1 trillion transactions a year. And imagine the requirement of doing fraud analytics for 1 trillion transactions. And we all are seeing how things are getting collaborative. There are a lot of platforms for financial services that have come in. There are trading platforms, there are investment platforms, there are banking, small credit platforms, there are banks which are coming up. And while every organization is improving their capability to serve their customer base, so the requirement of collaboration is very high. We are also seeing the open banking capabilities and requirements that are coming up where organizations are willing to exchange data amongst themselves to reduce or mitigate the risks they have or exposures they have to non-performing consumers or assets. Right, 75% of financial companies plan to collaborate this. So that means you need to have a platform which can support data, while for your internal use cases also enable you to exchange data from external partners, be it providing them data or consuming their own data. So the use cases demand a new breed of capabilities. If I have to talk about use cases around personalized customer experiences, portfolio analytics and wealth management, real-time fraud analytics, dynamic risk analytics, algorithm trading, data-driven services. All of these things, all of these use cases really need you to harness real-time data. So data is coming from all corners of the world, right? So you have relational data, your transactional data, your APIs, which come in JSON format, your regular unstructured social media data. You need to bring all of these data and deliver insights fast on these data. No organization is waiting for 24 hours to run their fraud analytics, right? So that means you're already lost a lot of time to mitigate your risk. And all of these things need to happen at the transactional space, not at an isolated data warehouse or a separate space where you need time to move data and process it. Also, ease of adoption is a primary criteria for any technology at this point of time, right? No organization is willing to wait for a year. So no use case can wait for a year. So the dynamics of the business are rapidly changing. We have seen in pandemic how people have adopted for cloud, for various other fast-moving solutions, right? So ease of adoption plays a pivotal role for any technology or a platform that you bring in. And the scale is unprecedented, right? So we have seen how things move when the products or services are really good. Robinhood is a classic example. Unlike Robinhood, there are multiple crypto exchanges in India or wealth management platforms. They never anticipated the scale, right? They set up a platform where their solution was so good that people started using it, and they were stunned by the concurrency levels that came. In fact, I have seen a lot of organizations or platforms in India seen outages because of transaction failures or huge volume of concurrency. So SingleStore is a unified database for data-intensive applications. So we enable users to bring data from any corner, any type of data, store it in SingleStore with a simple interface of ANSI SQL, process it at lightning speed, and provision that data to your business applications. We have powered the top financial services organizations across the globe: Bank of America, Royal Bank of Canada, Amex, Capital One, IEX Cloud, all use SingleStore to power and enable them process data for their requirements in real time. So SingleStore brings three main capabilities: ultra-fast ingest, which can help you scale data. We have customers who insert and update 10 million records per second. So that's the kind of speed that they are looking at their business requirements. Super low latency. Once you have these billions of records, it does not make sense to just store them. You really need to consume them. Like I said, earlier fraud detection was only on 1 or 2% of data. Now it is on 100% of data. So you really need blazing fast processing. Fraud detection queries need to perform within 10 milliseconds, 50 milliseconds. So one of our banks that I'm going to talk about, customer, is running fraud analytics under 50 milliseconds, right? On swipe of cards. The blazing fast queries is not on one query or two query. It should be on scale, right? The concurrency levels, like I spoke to you about the platforms in India, the platforms never anticipated the high concurrency, and they were stunned when people started using it. So the scale platform should automatically scale and support those unprecedented concurrency requirements, or where your platform is consumed by millions of users. So we have customers who run 150,000 concurrent queries per second. And once you have these three capabilities, SingleStore can power any data-intensive application that requires data in real time, huge amounts of data, and super low latency speed. So in SingleStore, you could bring in data from market, the trading data, the streaming data, the IoT data, relational database, which is customer transactions, enterprise CRM data. You can bring in your mobile applications, transactional data. You can bring ATM transactions. So I'm talking to one of the organization which manages ATM transactions. So they want to capture the messages and do text analytics. So you can bring in text, unstructured data. You can bring APIs, which bring in JSON data into SingleStore. You could bring in social media data. All of this data in a unified patented storage. So SingleStore is right now having a unique patent of universal storage. So bring all of these data into a universal storage by batch mode, by real time, by change data capture, by just uploading the data, or building a transactional system on SingleStore. So the best part is you bring all of these things in a single place, and all you have to do is use ANSI SQL to process this and drive those insights. So ANSI SQL enables you to interface with any of your channels across your organization. That could be your customer-facing apps, customer dashboards, which are internal applications for you, real-time applications, dashboard and BI tools, data scientists. Earlier, data scientists, or not even earlier, a couple of months back, I was talking to a data scientist who was spending close to a week to prepare data for running algorithms, right? So the challenge he had was he had to run an algorithm on 1 billion records, which used to take him hours together. So every day he used to spend hours just running a query to understand the results and fine tune his algorithm. So we spoke to him and brought in SingleStore. Now that 1 week is a day's work for him, because the query is performed under seconds, what used to take hours, right? That's the speed that your internal solutions can get out of it. And partner facing, like I spoke about open banking. So you want to exchange data, you want to consume data from different APIs, you want to give out data through APIs or through online marketplace, SingleStore can enable you to do that. And all of these things can happen in real time, given the capability of super fast processing. SingleStore can be deployed on-prem if you choose to, or we have a fully managed service where you could just plug and start working with it. SingleStore is also a single database which can give you a hybrid cloud with super fast processing across the cloud and on-prem data. You could have self-hosted data and also containerize it to manage the scale that you really want for your business applications. SingleStore has been very strong in financial services. We have been powering 5 of the top global banks for various use cases across portfolio analytics, real-time fraud analytics, wealth management, algorithm trading, data marketplace, enabling their dashboards. So the key segments that SingleStore has worked is banking, capital markets, payments, and lending. So we have helped customers, like I was talking to you about, enabling them with fraud analytics under 50 milliseconds. I'll show you a quick architecture, how that exactly looks. So like I was talking to you about, we power Goldman Sachs, American Express, Royal Bank of Canada, IEX Cloud. So out of all the customers, I just want to highlight 3 of them where we have created business and operational impact, right? We have one of the top banks, we have helped them save $52 million over cost saving by offloading the 90% of their mainframe transactions, which are processing 60,000 transactions per second. So with this, we help them offload their biggest workload from a very expensive solution to a more optimal and save them $52 million, plus help them run their real-time fraud detection under 50 milliseconds, which was a very big challenge. Now, this is a use case that I'm going to talk deeper about in the subsequent slides. One of our other customers is a wealth management firm, which had a portfolio dashboard application for their customers. They used to have super latencies with customers complaining them how the queries were slow or how the app ended up being slow. So whenever they used to open a mobile app, the app used to take a couple of seconds to load, given the queries that were running very slow. With SingleStore, they're able to process all queries under 10 milliseconds, with the app now opening within milliseconds for the customer. The customer feedback has increased. And this is for 40,000 customers over that app with high concurrency rates. The other very interesting customer is IEX Cloud, which is a data provider for stock exchanges, crypto exchanges. It has massive data around any stocks, cryptos, investments, SIPs, mutual funds, right? So they provide this data to their customers or big enterprises or platforms. They almost process 400,000 events per second in real time and deliver this through APIs. They had a very big challenge earlier to scale to the API requirements that they had from their customers. Right now with SingleStore, with cost-effective deployment, they have been able to scale to 1.5 billion API calls. Just to give you a perspective of how we have been able to achieve a 50 millisecond fraud detection timeline for the banking customer I spoke about. The objective of this customer was to help them manage their fraud with a proactive model rather than a reactive model. The biggest pain point for them was all the fraud detection was overnight. That means they had lost crucial amount of time after the transaction had happened. So they ended up having a large window for any criminal fraud or any opportunity for fraud. The key challenges was nightly jobs, accumulating of a lot of records for each customer, model refinement. That means they had to iterate the model continuously. Now, because it was a nightly job on a lot of records, they were not able to do it or achieve it. With SingleStore, we were able to run 70 plus sophisticated queries on a single transaction under 50 milliseconds. That means any customer swipes his credit card or debit card, there were 70 plus queries run on that transaction to confirm whether it's a fraud or it's a legitimate transaction. Rather than doing this overnight, we used to do it at the time of transaction. That means as and when there was a transaction, within 50 milliseconds or 15 milliseconds, the transaction was identified and the bank was able to reduce their frauds or go after the fraudulent transactions. Now, all of these things with a simple SQL standard interface, which enable them to integrate or bring in their broader users across the organization using this platform. So what we did as a quick deployment model was the request would go to the OLTP app. SingleStore was a transactional database for the OLTP app. The moment there is a transaction of credit card swiping, the OLTP app would send this transaction to SingleStore. There were 70 plus queries that were executed on SingleStore. Basis that, then the request would be scored and the transaction would be identified whether it is legitimate or fraud. With this, we were able to help them achieve both, right? Manage the transactional system and give them real-time analytics. And this on billions of records, right? So they had n number of transactions based on the concurrency of credit card transactions. So with SingleStore, we can power various segments, various use cases across different segments. So retail and commercial banking, like I said, one of the use case was on the swipe fraud detection, real-time wealth management dashboards, omni-channel customer 360. For capital markets, algorithmic trading, real-time asset and bond trading portfolio, we have been a system of record or a transactional database for multiple cryptocurrency exchanges. Fintech organizations who are providing capabilities for end users to invest, to plan their wealth, to plan their financial solutions. So SingleStore is powering multiple applications and business solutions. Payments and lendings, where you really want to capture real-time analytics, managing micro lending and marketplace, and enabling dashboards or analytics on any of these use cases across segments. SingleStore is a unified database to manage both your transactional workloads and your analytical workloads. That means historically you had to have your transactional system separate and your data warehouse separate. Then all the transactions would happen in your OLTP database. Your data warehouse used to get those transactions over the night. Then all the analytics would be processed. And that's where you had a large window for anything that happens in your business, which you are not aware of. With SingleStore, you can bring your transactional system on SingleStore. Your transactions happen on SingleStore, and your analytics happen on those transactions in SingleStore. That means you have absolutely no window of loss or no window where you're not aware of what's happening in your business. So that, like I said, when you really want to do fraud detection or you want to give exceptional customer experiences, you really need to bridge the gap of having batch or slow processing data into fast processing real-time data and power your data intensive applications, right? So SingleStore is a unified database that can allow you to do this. It's the only database with a universal storage platform, which is patented, and it can enable you to drive all your data intensive applications. This is what I had for today. Thank you, everyone. We'll probably discuss a couple of questions, and I'm available at the booth. So please feel free to meet us at the booth and discuss more. And I'm happy to share more details around various use cases that I spoke to you about today. Thank you, everyone.